Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and another video. So today we are doing the September reading wrap up. Sorry, I'm filming this halfway through October and I just spaced on what month I was doing my wrap up for. So as always, we are just going to discuss the books that I have read in September. I've got 6 physical books that I've read, 1 DNF, and then I have 2 ebooks that we need to discuss. So let's just get straight into this video. So the first book that I picked up was Bad Publicity by Bianca Gillam. Genuinely feel like I read this book 2 years ago. Like, it's not even been 2 months and I'm like, I don't remember what I read about this book. We focus on Andy and Jack. Andy has just landed her dream role as a publicist working for this book publishing company. And Jack is, I guess, one of their more popular authors, and her role with being this publicist is that she basically has to look after him and go on this book tour with him. And she's stuck going on a book tour around Europe with him. And they actually have a little history. It was giving a little bit of like a second chance romance. However, when you actually read this book, their history is like, it was a little lame. I'm gonna be honest, it was a little lame. I was a little like disappointed in what actually happened because they both were at university together. They kind of met up, had a little date, it was going well. And then at the university or like college that they attended, the athlete guys, which Jake was, he was on the swim team, they would, this bit's like gross, they would rate the girls like in bed and they would publish it anonymously, but like the girls were obviously, it was their name, everyone knew who they were, and that's just so demeaning and gross. And she ended up landing on it and she's still a little bit traumatized by it and is like mad at him for it, which I totally get, but I was also a little bit like, girl, just like move on, do your job and it'll be fine. For the most part, I did enjoy it. I actually rated it 4 stars. I didn't mind it at all. I would be really keen to pick up another book by Bianca. It was just the stuff in the past that was like a little bit eye-rolly for me. But overall, did enjoy it, had fun with it, and I do just really love how like summery the cover is. And then the second book I picked up was my book club read of the month, which was On Wings of Blood by Briar Bolin. This is the first book in the Bloodwing Academy, and it's literally Harry Potter cross Fourth Wing, which I'm gonna say is a little misleading, purely because I had beef with this book, and that was because everyone was like selling it to me as like Fourth Wing. I'm going, fabulous, there's dragons. There's literally a goddamn dragon on the front and it literally says wings. There was no freaking dragons. The entire book I'm going, where were the dragons? Like, where are the dragons? They're just statues. So that aspect of the book disappointed me a little bit, but I've been told by friends who have picked up the sequel that there's more dragons in the sequel, so I think I'm gonna like it, but 100% this was Hogwarts. The main characters, I was like, you're Harry, Hermione, Ron, Professor Snape. Like, you were able to like pick the different characters and who they were inspired for, and I could 100% see it so easily. But in this one, we focus on our main character, Medra. She finds herself in this land. She literally appears naked on a pile of dead bodies, like a literal like mountain of dead people. And she is basically taken to their capital. She's found by this man, Blake, and turns out they're vampires. And they believe that Medra is actually a dragon rider because of just like her body type and size. And she becomes betrothed to Blake and she has to attend Bloodwing Academy, which is basically for all of the vampire elites to attend, and then also some humans they do allow to attend as well. But it very much gave Harry Potter and a little bit of Fourth Wing, but I'm hoping it's a little bit more Fourth Wingy. So in this society, the heirs who are gonna like take over the family, because there's 4 like main families, they can get like engaged to multiple different people. And I can't remember the terminology that they use, but it's not like a coven, but I've got coven in my head and it's wrong. They have to like compete and do these like challenges together to kind of, I guess, prove the strength of each group. All of the betrothed people compete in it, and obviously Medra is in it, along with the other girl who's been betrothed to Blake, who hates Medra. I gave it 4.5 stars. I thought this was a pretty good romantasy novel. I can see why it's got hype. I enjoyed it. I, like I said, had beef with the dragons, but yeah, it was really easy to read. No big complaints other than the dragon complaint I keep bringing up, and I need to move on clearly. And then the third book I picked up was Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. This is the sequel to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. These are just like cutesy little murder mysteries. focusing on a teenager. So in this one, Pip has basically started a podcast where she actually spoke about the events in the first book and how she solved the Andy Bell and Sal Singh murders. And this kind of just focuses on like the fallout, I don't know, the consequences of her going through all of that. And essentially she gets a podcast, it's really popular, and then one of her best friends, his older brother Jamie, goes missing, and the police aren't taking it seriously because Jamie is a known runner, but he's known to kind of like crack the shits with his dad and then just leave and disappear for a little while and then come back. But his mother and brother feel like this time it's different, and they kind of get Pip on board to investigate his disappearance because they are worried that something bad has happened to him. So Pip's involved in that. She's starting to get some threatening messages, which I know are going to link up with the third book. Overall, I didn't enjoy this as much as the first novel. I gave it 4 stars. It felt a little redundant. It felt a little insane to me that a 17-year-old girl is still willingly putting herself into this much of harm's way. So that aspect was a little bit unbelievable. But for the most part, I did enjoy it, but I did sort of start to get a little bit over it. I will say we've still continued the trend of like making it case files, and like there's text messages in here, but we also got some photographs, which I thought was super exciting. But yeah, overall, it's just like a fun like little murder mystery to read for YA. I should state that as well. And then the 4th book that I picked up was Night of the Dragon by Julie Kagawa. This is the 3rd and final book in the Shadow of the Fox trilogy. And I gave this one 3 stars. I nearly DNF'd it actually, to be honest, guys. I got like maybe 50 pages in and I just went, do I actually care how this ends? Because in a lot of fantasy books for YA, very easy to kind of guess the plot, what's going to happen at the end of these books. We know that our main characters are going to win. The villains are going to be defeated. They're going to get some sort of like special wish. Because in this one, we have a dragon who raises from the ocean every 1,000 years and grants a human a wish. So I was like, she's going to grant a wish to save the dude she's in love with. Everything that I kind of thought was going to happen happened. We had a random villain at the end that I didn't expect. So that was intriguing. That was a little disappointing how that all kind of played out, because it was like, spoiler alert, I'm the villain. And then they defeat the villain. This villain was like hundreds, if not thousands of years old. Been training for hundreds / centuries to be able to do what they want to do, and they were easily defeated by like just freaking teenagers, and I really struggle with that. Didn't enjoy it. Like I said, rated it 3 stars. I'm glad that I've read it, because this was like one of the last Julie Kagawa series that I had unread on my shelves, but definitely not my favorite. I don't think it was worth the hype that it's had. I still just really did struggle with like the Japanese mythology, and I think that's what let me down in this one. And then book number 5 was probably one of my favorite reads, or if not my favorite, it was one of 2 of my 5-star reads for this month, and that is One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. Like I said, it was one of 2 5-star reads for me. After I got like halfway through this book, I was like, yeah, this is my favorite read of the month. But then I had another 5-star read, and I'm not sure, I can't quite remember which one I said was my favorite read of the month, because I haven't printed out the cover and put it in my reading journal, and I can't remember what I picked online. So this is essentially the sequel to Every Summer After. However, if you haven't read that book, I don't necessarily feel like you need to have read it in order to read this book. It was one hell of an experience, and I had a great time with this book. So we focus on the older brother, Charlie, and we also have Alice. So Alice, when she was a teenager, basically came to the lake where Charlie and Sam, who are the brothers in this like little duology, she came there and stayed at a friend's, like her grandparents' friend's cottage, I guess, at the lake, and she ended up snapping a photo of Charlie, Sam, and Persephone. She snapped a photo of them as teenagers, and this photo actually became super popular and helped launch like her photography career. In this one, her grandmother has a fall, needs to have like, I think like a hip replacement, and is pretty much depressed as a result of it. So they take her back to the lake, and it's just a chance for Alice and her grandmother to kind of just rest and relax. And Alice is kind of needing a break from her photography business. She's also like just had her partner of however many years break up with her. He basically just, she thought they were happy, they were going to get married, be together, and then he's just all of a sudden left her. Yeah, they just come to the lake for the summer, and she ends up meeting Charlie, who is the neighbor. and they just have a little cutesy romance, and I really loved this. I thought it was beautiful. Like I said, it was 5 stars. I have no complaints. It was perfect. It actually made me appreciate and love Charlie a little bit more, because Alice makes a list of things that she wants to do because she's just turned 30 and he helps her do it. And honestly, love, it was beautiful. The end made me cry a little bit, but yeah, overall, it was stunning. It was gorgeous. I had such a good time with this book. And book 6 was The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. I forgot to say as well that Night of the Dragon was one of the books left on my 25 books I want to read in 2025. And then The Gilded One is also another of the 25 books that I want to read in 2025. This is a YA kind of fantasy. I did rate it 3.5 stars. It was interesting. So in this society, young girls, when they turn 16, they have a ceremony, which is the word I couldn't find for the life of me in one of my TBR videos, but they have this ceremony where the girls basically have to have their hand cut, and they have to see what color their blood runs. If their blood runs red, that's amazing. They get to go back into society, get married, live their lives, etc. If their blood runs gold, they're considered demons and they have to be killed. However, they're very powerful demons who can actually like regenerate after they've been killed, and they only have one particular type of true death, but you may have to attempt to kill them multiple times before you find out their true death. Unfortunately for us, our main character, Decca, she gets like killed 9 times by her father and other men in the village, and they still can't kill her. And then someone from, I guess, like the Emperor's capital comes and collects her because they're wanting to get all of the girls who are considered demons. They're actually called alkali, and they're now being recruited to fight in the Emperor's army. They're making their own army of the alkali, and they've got to kill these things they call the death shrieks, who are stuffing things up for people. And it was a really interesting read. The plot moved very quickly. Things in it was a little unbelievable because we have the Chosen One plot line, and I'm not really a fan of that plot line. I've read it, I think, one too many times that I've just like, I roll. But it was very interesting with like the world and I guess their mythology, the gods and goddesses, who Decca actually is in the grand scheme of things. And I'm kind of interested to read the sequel of this one just to find out, because Decca has done something at the end of this book that she has been basically, she was born to do. So I'm interested to see like the fallout and the consequences of that. But yeah, overall, like I did enjoy it. This does feel like a book that had I picked it up, I think when I was a teenager, I really would have vibed with it and loved it. This book wasn't released when I was a teenager. And then the 7th book that I read was actually an ebook. It was Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonam-Young. This is the first book I have read by this author. And it was also my second 5-star read, and it's the one that I can't decide if I preferred this one or One Golden Summer as my favorite read of the month. But like, I'm low-key mad at myself for how long it took me to actually pick up one of her books, because I adored absolutely everything about this story. So we focus on our main character, Wynn. She was basically born with a tiny hand. So one of her hands just didn't develop properly in the womb, and as such, she's got like a smaller hand, and it's harder for her to do things with one of her hands. It's really great because the book literally opens with her being at a Halloween party, and she's dressed up as a pirate, and on her hand, her small hand is what she calls it, that's the one that's actually got like the little hook. So I thought like that was so cool. And while she's at this party, she meets this guy, Bo. Bo actually had to have his leg partially amputated. So he's there as a pirate as well, with like the peg leg, because his leg's amputated. It was like, I read this book and I'm like, this like that like first couple chapters, I'm like, this is gonna be a banger. They really get along at this party and decide to kind of have a one-night stand. Wynn falls pregnant as a result of this one-night stand, and they have to track down Bo, and it's just basically about the two of them kind of getting to know one another, but also preparing for this baby that they're going to have and raise together. So she ends up moving in with Bo because she's living in like quite a bad apartment that wouldn't be ideal to raise a baby in. So she moves in with him, and it's just about them developing their relationship. And it was so beautiful. It was so gorgeous. We also have their best friends, Sarah and Caleb, who were also amazing characters, and the found family in this was just amazing. I loved the way it was written. I loved the characters, the plot. Everything was just like top tier for me, and I flew through this book and I had the most amazing time with it. And it actually made me really excited to like pick up the rest of Hannah's books. So I've actually ordered a physical copy of this one, but I've then also bought like 2 other books of hers that I don't currently have. But yeah, I'm really excited to read more of her books because I think that she might be an auto-buy author for me, which is super exciting. And then the 8th and final book that I did read this month was also an ebook, and it was You Had Me at Holla by Alexis Daria. Now, this is the first full-length novel that I have read by this author. I previously read by her, I think it was last Christmas, I read a Christmas novella, and I really enjoyed that novella, and that's why she was put on my radar as a book for, like, as an author for me to read. It's the first in a series, and we focus on our main character, Jasmine, who is a TV novella actress. So I guess she stars in their little romance sitcoms. And she's basically just broken up with her boyfriend, who's, I believe, a musician who broke up with her via a TV interview with his new girlfriend present. So she's kind of through like all of the magazines, and the paparazzi are after her and trying to find her. And then we have our other main character, Ashton, who is cast as male lead in their TV show where she's the female lead. He has a secret kid that nobody knows about, so he's like avoiding Jasmine because she's got too much of a scandal and paparazzi around her. Did not really enjoy this one whatsoever. Ashton was like nearly 40 years old, and when I worked that out, I was a bit like, this isn't fun. But I just didn't really like Jasmine. I didn't like Ashton. I found him a bit dull. Truly didn't care if they got together. I was just reading it to get through it, to be like, does it get better for me? And it just didn't get better. I rated it 3 stars. There's like another 2 books in this series that focus on like her cousins or siblings, and I didn't like this book enough to want to pick up those ones, so I won't be. I'm a little disappointed because I thought I was really going to enjoy this, but it just wasn't for me. And then the final book that I have to discuss was a DNF, and that is The Way Back to You by James Bailey. I put off reading this book for all of September. I got to the last day of September and went, do I actually want to read this? And I went, no. I don't even think like I read a page, to be honest. I just went, nothing about this blurb excites me. We focus on this, like, I think single father who decides he's going to meet up with his pen pal who lives in France, and they ride a bike to one another, and nothing about it excited me. I'm genuinely baffled as to why I picked these books up in the first place, because they're definitely not something that I would ordinarily read. I got to the last day of September, went, you know what, I genuinely, like, I don't want to pick this up, so I'm not going to, so I didn't. So I have DNF'd it without actually reading it, and I feel really good about that. This was one of the 25 books that I wanted to read in 2025, but a DNF still counts as getting it off that challenge. Okay, so they are all of the books that I did read in September. If you have read any of these books, please let me know your comments down below, and I will see you guys in a couple of weeks for the November TBR. Bye.